Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'll be doing a rules refresher for Nemesis. And in this rules refresher video, I'm going to teach you how to use the blood tests. This is a special pack of promo cards available for Nemesis, and I think they're pretty cool. Let's get rolling. So I am ready to teach you about the Blood Test promo pack deck for use with Nemesis. And I'll say right off the bat, yes, it can be used with Nemesis Lockdown as well. Now, at time of recording, Nemesis Retaliation is not out yet, so I can't say for certain whether or not this promo pack would work with Retaliation, but my guess is no. I think almost certainly not. I think that game's going to be a pretty big departure from Nemesis and Nemesis Lockdown, but this does work for both. So let's get into what it is and what it does. So it contains these 6 cards here. These are the blood tests, and one card here, which is the rules card. So the rules card is double-sided, and it tells you exactly what it does. So let me run through that real quick. So it says blood test rules. Once per game, each player may perform the following action. Spend 1 card from your hand, normal 1 card action cost, just like any other basic action here. And if you are in a green room, you may draw 1 blood test card and place it on top of your discard pile. So these 6 blood test cards are all identical. So when you draw one, it's not like one is going to be different from another. They're all the same. So anytime you're in a green room, you can spend a card to gain a blood test. And you can do that once per game. Each player can do that 1 time per game. So the game only supports 5 players, but they give you 6 cards. I'm assuming one is just an extra in case you lose one, or the makers of the game just know that people are playing 6-player games even though it's not technically supported, and so they're giving you the extra card. But either way, that's what's here. And so the green rooms are, of course, the rooms where you would be able to acquire green items. So places like the laboratory or surgery, somewhere like that. And so let's just mock up what this would be like for a second. We'll say this blood test deck is being stored over there during the game, and you've got, let's just say you've only got 2 cards left in your hand. So here they are. You could, if you're in a green room, spend 1 card to then gain a blood test card, and it goes face down on top of your discard pile. So you'll notice that these all have the same back of the card as your standard action cards. So that goes there. And then later, when it's time to shuffle your discard pile to make a new action cards deck, you may be able to draw that blood test card. So we'll put the rest of these blood test cards off to the side, and let's talk about what happens when you have the card and why you might want to use it. So let's draw up our hand of 5. So let's say it's later in the game now, and we have no cards. It's the start of the round. We need to draw our 5 cards, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we've got our blood test card. Oh, we've got a contamination card in hand, so that kind of gunks up our deck. We've got rest, search, and suppressive fire. So let's hope we're not in combat, first of all, because we've got a lot of no combat cards here. But you'll notice that the blood test cards have the no combat symbol in the top right corner. So if you are in combat, you cannot use the blood test card, just like you wouldn't be able to use search or rest. So let's say we're not in combat, just for this example. What does the blood test do? Well, there's 0 cost. So if you want to use its effect, you just play this card by itself. You don't need to discard any other cards to take the action. Now, it tells you right on the card what it does. It says, discard all contamination cards from your hand. Next, scan all contamination cards from your deck and discard pile. It has no additional effect. After that, shuffle your action deck and discard pile to create a new deck. So to really understand some of the benefits of this, let's start by looking at the standard rest card that every character has. So if we read rest, it says scan all contamination cards in your hand and remove all uninfected cards. If any of the cards were infected, follow the infection procedure. So first of all, I've got this contamination card in my hand. If I play rest, I scan all the contamination cards in my hand. So this one card. If any are uninfected, I discard them. And if any are infected, now I have to follow the infection procedure. I can gain a larva token on my player board, or if I've already got one there, then I'm just out of the game and replaced with a creeper. So there's a little bit of risk when you take the rest action. In that if you've got an infected card, it's going to put you in a bad position. You're going to, at a minimum, you're going to get that larva, and that's not good. But secondly, it only lets you scan the cards in your hand. So if we've got perhaps a contamination card in our discard pile or a contamination card coming up in our action deck, we don't get to scan those, and they're still going to be in there clogging up our deck. And we're not going to know if those have infection or not. Now, there is a similar effect for the canteen room. So if you happen to be in the canteen, the room action, which costs you 2 cards as the action cost, I'll show you here, canteen 2 cards, right? That says you may choose to scan all contamination cards in your hand and remove all non-infected cards, and if at least one is infected, then you follow the infection procedure just like rest. So the canteen is like it's like a way to perform the rest action when you don't have the rest card, but it's more expensive. Now let's compare those to the blood test. Let's say we do the blood test, we'll read it again. Discard all contamination cards from your hand. Okay, so I've got one and I discard it. Then scan all contamination cards from your deck and discard pile. So now we are scanning essentially all of our contamination cards. So you go through all of your action deck and your discard deck, pull out all the contamination cards, scan all of them. And then importantly, it has no additional effect. So in this case, if you have uninfected cards, you still keep them. If you have infected cards, you do not follow the infection procedure. So you don't need to take a larva token, or if you have one, you don't die. So all you're doing is finding out the status of the contamination cards you have. After that, shuffle your action deck and the discard pile to create a new deck. So you take your whatever contamination cards you had, and you put them in your discard, you grab your action deck, you shuffle them all together, and now you have a new action deck. So that was, and you've spent your blood test to do this, so presumably that gets shuffled in too. So that was your action for the turn. You could take, one more action, or you could choose to pass. But the benefit then is whether you have any infected cards or not. Now, I find that this is most helpful at the end of the game. So if we bust out the rule book here, there's this contamination check step at the end of the game, which says each living character, either asleep or in the hibernatorium or evacuated in an escape pod, checks their contamination cards. So this is after we've checked the engines and the coordinates. So the ship hasn't exploded, or if it has, you're not on the ship. And we've checked the coordinates if relevant, if that matters, we're going to the place we're trying to go to. So now we check all of our contamination cards. And again, those would be any of your contamination cards, deck or discard or your hand. And the player uses a scanner to check all the contamination cards in their action deck, discard pile, and hand. If there is at least one infected card or a larva on their player board, that player shuffles all their cards, both action and contamination, to create a new action deck. They then draw the top 4 cards. If there is at least one contamination card, infected or not, the character dies. If there is none, they are lucky to survive. So if you're getting towards the end of the game and you've got some contamination cards, this can tell you whether or not any are infected. And if none of them are infected, then you don't need to worry about this contamination check at the end of the game. And you can get into the hibernation chambers, you can get into the escape pod, do whatever you're going to do. And then you don't have to worry about this. So it's not like you're going to want to do that necessarily every game, but that could be really, really useful. So that's the most obvious use case. But then also, if you've already got a larva on your player board and you've got contamination cards, rather than use rest or the canteen, that might kill you if you have an infected card. But if you use the blood test, then you can find out you're infected. And if you are, well, now you know that you won't play rest or a check in the canteen, and you can head to surgery and try and get that larva token off, before you have a bigger problem. And when you're in surgery, you can remove all infected cards. So you know that you have an infected one. So that could really help. So it's good information to have. Now, there's also one small benefit, in addition to what I've already described, that we've seen demonstrated here that was not maybe obvious. And this is not like a reason to play the card by itself. But again, when you're done with this blood test, you've got your contamination cards and then whatever other cards, and you shuffle your discard pile and your action pile to make a new action deck. So if you're trying to do something specific and you know the card you need is already in your discard pile, playing Blood Test will get your discard pile shuffled back into your action deck and potentially get that card that you're looking for back into your hand sooner. Just depending on the shuffle. So it's not like super reliable, but that's an important effect too. So something to be aware of. So I think that's about it. That's the blood test deck. It's pretty simple to add into your game. You won't necessarily need it or even want it every time, but including it is like zero additional overhead, and it's just kind of a nice thing to have. And like I said, you should have no problem integrating this into Lockdown either. So that's what I've got for you. Releasing simultaneous to this video should be another Nemesis solo playthrough where I will include the blood test deck. I can't tell you yet whether or not I will use it, but I will try to at least pick it up. So that way you can kind of see it in action. But that's what I've got for you this time on Table for One. If you've got any questions or comments, let me know. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're here. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Take it easy.